I can't stand it anymore. You're fired, fired. I'm going to tell everything to my dad," said the president's son, causing the atmosphere in the office to freeze over. It wasn't my mistake. He was the one who pinned his mistake on me. Yet, everyone else just turned a blind eye. That's when, he's not at fault. You are, aren't you? The one who stood up for me was a beautiful colleague I had a crush on. I didn't know yet. She was hiding an incredible secret that would greatly affect my life. My name is Yale. Though I've always been somewhat introverted, I grew up showered with love from my parents and those around me. Although I can't say I was ever the brightest, thanks to their support, I managed to graduate from college and landed a job at a company related to architecture, something I've always dreamed of. This company, built from the ground up by a president who branched out from a major housing manufacturer, has established a rock-solid reputation as a local business over the years. True to its local roots, it's filled with a warm, family-like atmosphere, something that's always been important to me. Though not widely known, the company prides itself on the trust it has garnered from the local community, and all employees, including myself, take pride in this and work hard. This environment made work enjoyable for me, and even when I was struggling with unfamiliar tasks in the early days, my colleagues and seniors were always kind and patient. That's why I, too, wanted to help anyone in trouble. As I gradually got used to the job and started to match faces with names among my colleagues and seniors, my enthusiasm for work grew even more. Thanks a lot. That was a huge help. I'm totally free when I'm not busy, so don't hesitate to ask me for help. Even though he was from a different department, a colleague from my batch, whom I talked to relatively often, was seen alone in a dim warehouse organizing a massive amount of documents. Without realizing it, I found myself helping him out. I didn't feel like I was doing a great deed, but he seemed quite desperate at the time and was extremely grateful. Since then, I started to offer help more frequently whenever I came across someone in need at work. At times, I would run around with a colleague looking for landscape images for a sample, or stay up late to help a senior 1 year above me with their first presentation demo, taking on many requests for help. I'm really glad I asked you, Yale. It's no big deal at all. Speaking of which, you mentioned the other day you didn't have a girlfriend. If you're up for it, I can set up a blind date for you. It was troubling how a senior would bring up something I mentioned often every chance they got, but I appreciated that they cared about things beyond work. When a colleague went on leave and a heavy workload landed on our shoulders, we pulled together with mutual support and camaraderie, handling it without a single complaint. In these days, my work evaluation improved, and I was gradually entrusted with more responsible positions. Yet, I never forgot my desire to help others, always feeling the urge to lend a hand to anyone in trouble. Eventually, I became known as Good Old Yale, someone everyone could rely on. Thanks to such efforts, I now receive projects with remarks like "Next up is Yale" from several clients, making me feel honored to contribute significantly to the company. However, those perfect days didn't last forever. That day came all of a sudden. As usual, when I arrived at the office, the space next to my desk was unusually noisy. Looking over, I saw mountains of books and cardboard boxes piled up, with more belongings scattered around. Upon closer inspection, the clutter had even encroached on the space at my feet. "Good morning. Is someone new coming?" I asked a part-time employee who had just arrived, and she turned on her computer with a somewhat exasperated expression. "Good morning. Yeah, it seems the president's son wants to work here, so he's starting today." "Well, that's sudden. Have you ever met the president's son?" "No, not at all." "Do you know him?" she then said with a somewhat somber face. "Yeah, I've heard he's quite a character. Strong character." "Yeah. Well, you'll see when you work together, won't you?" Despite her somewhat distressed expression catching my attention, my mind was too preoccupied with the projects I was handling to think any deeper about it. "Starting today, I'll be assigned here. My name's Hayden. Nice to meet you." "Nice to meet you." Every time his thick, permed hair moved, an unpleasant air of smugness seemed to waft around him. His wide eyes and a mouth that seemed always up to something made his handsome features even more pronounced. "Nice to meet you, too." Feeling somewhat intimidated by his glare, I couldn't help but become apprehensive. Then suddenly, he started walking towards me with heavy steps. "You're Yale, right?" "Yes, that's me." He looked me over from head to toe, sizing me up, and snorted disdainfully with his arms crossed. "Just some plain guy." Muttering that under his breath, he turned on his heel and walked away. What was that about? Despite my confusion, I decided to focus on the work in front of me. After a while, I felt someone's gaze on me. Thinking it might be my imagination, I looked up to find Hayden standing before me with a menacing look. "What's up? Why do you only stick to your own tasks?" "What do you mean my own? You're at the bottom here, right? It's normal for those at the bottom to put aside their tasks and follow the orders of those above them, isn't it?" His intimidatingly deep voice froze me on the spot. Well, but the task I'm currently on has a deadline. Your tasks should be put on hold. You can always stay late to finish them. So, I'll be counting on you." Saying that, Hayden returned to his desk and started doing something on his computer. What's going on here? Yet, day after day, Hayden began to give me unreasonable instructions and dump his work on me. "Hey, you're not leaving, are you? I have plans today. What's a newbie like you talking about? Here, this needs to be done by tomorrow morning." Dropping a massive pile of documents on my desk again. Glancing through the documents, I noticed they all related to companies we hadn't dealt with recently. Is this urgent? Don't ask questions. I told you to do it, so you do it. If you can follow my orders, maybe it's better if you just quit. The way he smirked and lifted the corners of his mouth made him look like someone from a scary world. When I remained silent, he seemed to take it as a sign of agreement and left the place with a smile. Trying to make sure Hayden didn't notice, I sighed secretly and turned the computer on again. Why does he always have to come at me? I started typing on the keyboard roughly, as if taking my frustration out on it. Hello. I inadvertently greeted her when she suddenly appeared. She nodded slightly and quickly left the room. She's cute. Watching her soft medium hair flittering, I couldn't help but feel my heart skip a beat. Her cool eyes were striking, and despite her cute, small animal-like appearance, she had a reputation for being a competent employee. We're in the same department, but even though we're the same age and joined a company at the same time, we've never really talked until now. Naturally, I've seen her being burdened with work by Hayden so many times, she must view me with pity. Sigh, there's no way someone like me could ever match up with her. Thus, Hayden has been piling on various tasks, big and small, regardless of my situation. At first, the boss tried to help with the tasks pushed onto me, but seeing this, Hayden unleashed a thunderous scolding. Everyone knows what would happen if they got involved, so they all turn a blind eye, no matter my situation. But I couldn't bring myself to blame him. Probably, if someone else were the target, I'd act the same way. Still, I felt like my spirit was being whittled away, wondering how long this would go on. "Good morning, Yale." "Oh, good morning. You look like someone who's itching for more work." "No, that's not it. Don't worry. There's plenty of work to go around." With that, I was ordered to organize documents stuffed into a cardboard box to the brim. I'm sorry, but I have a meeting with a representative from Sky House today." Then, he snatched the meeting documents right out of my hands. "I'll go in your place." "Yeah. Okay then." As he flipped through the documents, he had a smug grin on his face, seemingly pondering something. Then, he looked as if he had just thought of something brilliant. "Hey, Mariah." Hayden called out Mariah's name in a creepily soothing voice. Summoned by Hayden, she lifted her face from the computer, showing a somewhat annoyed expression but hurried over nonetheless. My heart was racing at the sight of her. "Yes, what is it?" "I'm sorry, but it's been decided that I'm going to entrust this very, very important task to our newbie here, so could you accompany me to this meeting with a representative instead? But that project requires Yale. But your name is listed right here, isn't it?" I did work on part of the design, but he handled the overall aspects. "That's fine. I want you to come with me. That's okay with you, right, Yale?" Unable to withstand his forceful demeanor, I reluctantly nodded. I began to quietly apologize to Mariah and started to explain the gist of what the meeting would cover. Her complexion paled shockingly, and though I grew concerned, I couldn't speak to her because Hayden was glaring at us the whole time. Little did I know, this day would become a lifelong regret for me. And then, a week passed. Worn out from the recent stress, I arrived at work just in time, only for the manager to rush over to me with a pale face. "Hey, what's happening with the Sky House project? Is something wrong? The meeting last week, Hayden went to it, right?" the manager said, nodding towards Hayden's desk. "Yes, you approved of that, didn't you?" "Yeah, but it seems there was a mix-up with the content we presented." "What do you mean?" "From what I heard, the numbers in the documents we provided were significantly incorrect. But I gave the documents directly to Hayden, so there shouldn't be any mistakes," I said, pulling up the saved document on my computer. "That's strange." "Huh?" The manager leaned in to look. "These numbers could potentially lead to defects. But I didn't come up with these absurd numbers." Just then, Hayden, who seemed to have just returned from a break, strolled back in. "Hayden, what? Did you alter the documents I gave you for last week's meeting?" Oh, yeah. Changed them. Got a problem with that." "Did you change the numbers?" "The numbers? Yeah, something about the layout seemed off." "I thought so." My mind went blank. "Why did you change them?" "I just changed it to make it more readable because the document you made was hard to understand," Hayden said, irritation seeping through his words as if my calling him out had struck a nerve. Not liking the way I was glaring at him in silence, he snapped, "Hey, got a problem? By changing the numbers, you've disregarded Sky House's specifications." "What?" "The numbers were changed." Hayden said this and leaned in to look at the printed document. "What the heck is this?" "Hey, what's going on here?" The manager's frown deepened. I had no idea. "But you just said you changed it. It's your fault." Hayden pointed at me, spouting nonsensical arguments. "It's because you made a confusing document that this happened." "No, but you're trying to tell me what to do." "Huh, you've got some nerve. If I wanted to, I could have you fired, you know." Then, in the next moment, "Lael did nothing wrong," exclaimed Mariah, coming over to us. "Lael is not to blame, especially considering the meeting the other day." "Mariah." I never imagined Mariah would stand up for me like this. But then, Hayden said something unexpected. "Come on, what's this about? You might be too busy basking in your own excellence to remember, but this guy here has been trying to undermine me with trivialities. I haven't done anything." "Quiet. Incompetent and yet framing me." "That's not true. I've had enough. You're fired, fired. I'm going to spill everything to my dad." With that, Hayden left. "Yale, Mariah suddenly spoke to me. "Mariah, thank you for earlier." "No, because it wasn't your fault. But you can't make an enemy of him. You'll be targeted just like me. But still, to leave it as it is. I'm worried about you. If you keep defending me, he will definitely do something to you, Mariah." So, I looked her in the eyes and said, "Please, don't get involved with me anymore. I'm begging you." I had decided to quit the company. And so, having abruptly left the company, my new routine became spending my days on the balcony, gazing at the park that was clearly visible. While I'm relieved not to have to deal with Hayden's unreasonable demands anymore, the truth is, I'm also feeling anxious and scared about being left behind by the rest of the world, not working. Everyone must be busy now. I found myself reminiscing about the company I worked at just a week ago. I wonder how Mariah is doing. Ever since that incident, I realized I was constantly thinking about her. Well, someone like me probably doesn't even cross her mind. I returned to my room with a wry smile, just as the intercom rang. A solicitor for newspapers or something. Intending to pretend I wasn't home, I peeked through the door's peephole and saw an unexpected figure standing there. I hurriedly opened the door. "Mariah, sorry for dropping by so suddenly." Seeing her out of breath, I insisted she come in from the entrance. "It's a bit messy inside, so I apologize for keeping you here." "No, I'm the one who should apologize for coming unannounced. Is something the matter?" "I was worried about you, Yale, and wanted to check on you." "About me?" Her unexpected words made me feel as if I was in a dream. "This is all my fault." "What do you mean?" What she confided in me was about the relentless and persistent behavior she had been enduring from Hayden. It all started when Hayden joined a company. He was competent at his job and also attractive. Hearing of his reputation from others, he began making frequent visits to her department, despite being busy with work. As it turned out, she was exactly Hayden's type, and from there, he started his relentless pursuit. Of course, she had no interest in him and always behaved professionally as just a colleague. But that didn't deter Hayden. "Come on, a meal together should be fine, right? I have plans after this." And then, at another time, saying, "Your shoulders must be stiff," while trying to place his hands on her shoulders. "Could you please stop? I'll report this to the higher-ups." "What are you talking about? It's just a joke." Yet, he kept trying to find chances to touch her or get her alone, never giving up until the very end. It happened one day. He ambushed her as she was leaving work and blocked her way to the station, saying this with a creepy grin on his face. "You don't have a boyfriend, right? If you don't, shall we hang out?" Faced with his unsettling smile, she blurted out in response, "I'm dating Yale." "Lale. That's the case, so I'll be excusing myself now." And with that, she hurried off to the station without saying anything more. My heart was pounding painfully as I listened to her story. I was desperate at that time, wondering how I could escape from him. That's how it was, huh? I felt pathetic for not being able to say anything more. Just by chance, when I was passing by, I overheard that Yale didn't have a girlfriend, and I just blurted it out. "I'm really sorry." She looked very apologetic. "No, it's okay." Well, there's no way someone like me could actually be liked, right? I thought myself foolish for even hoping for a moment, unable to hide my shock. But what surprised me wasn't just that. Actually, I've been thinking about quitting the company. What? With Yale gone and him still being persistent, there's no point in staying there anymore. I thought everything would go back to normal if I left, but that wasn't the case. With you gone, everything at work is a mess. No, I'm not that talented. Waving my hand dismissively, I managed a wry smile. I've always thought Mariah was incredibly capable at her job. No, that's not true. I've been trying hard to become an immediate asset like Mariah. But work is difficult, isn't it? Exactly. But Yale, you're sincere and polite to everyone. Even though we're the same age, you use formal language. No, that's because. Saying so, we ended up laughing together. It's been a long time since I laughed so heartily. Her smile is so cute. Several days had passed since Mariah's unexpected visit. I was scraping by on remote work I found online, searching for the next place to land a job. Today, I went to the job center again and returned home, shoulders drooping. As I climbed the stairs to my apartment as usual, I saw the men in suits standing in front of my door. "What? Welcome back. Sorry for the sudden intrusion. We wanted to have a word." I couldn't believe my eyes. There stood Mr. Williams and his son, Hayden, with a solemn expression on the president's face and Hayden looking somewhat guilty. "It's been a long time, Mr. Williams. What brings you here?" Then, the president shook my hand strongly. "Please, would you consider coming back to the company? I know it's a selfish request, but we're in a critical situation right now." The president, who had always exuded a gentle and kind demeanor during interviews, now looked haggard beyond recognition. I decided to invite him inside to hear him out in detail. "What happened?" "Well, the thing is, some projects you were handling got taken over by him, and now our clients are saying if Yale isn't managing their accounts, they want to end their dealings with us." "Really?" "Yes, it's been quite a problem. Mr. Williams, you do know why I had to leave, right?" "Yes, I heard it was because of a difficult home situation." I was astonished. Even to this man, his father, and the president, he had lied. "That's completely untrue, Mr. Williams. I left because of the terrible treatment I received from him." Saying so, I pointed at Hayden standing beside me. "What?" The president was visibly shocked. "I'll explain in detail the harassment I've endured at the company." And so, I laid out all the harassment I had faced. He's that kind of person. "Mr. Williams, I'm fully aware it's presumptuous of a low-level employee like myself to say this, but I've reached my breaking point. Carried away by my momentum, I was out of breath by the end. Do you have any proof of this?" Hayden approached me calmly, challenging my statement. Of course, I hadn't brought up the issue without any evidence. Yes, of course, I have it. Then, I pressed a play button on my voice recorder. You think you're who? The future of this company. Talking back to someone like me. If you tell my dad about this, you won't get off easy. I'm your superior, you know. What I say goes. Hayden's threatening voice filled the room. The recording also included his discriminatory remarks towards female employees and his near-threatening words to employees desperately trying to refuse his unreasonable demands. Want to hear more? It's all just your fabrication, trying to frame me again. These were all diligently gathered by your employees working hard at your company. What? Those guys. There's much more where that came from. Going back to the day Mariah suddenly visited. He's not just troubling us. Others have been verbally abused into taking leave or have seen significant project delays due to his unreasonable demands. If we don't put a stop to this, the company itself is at risk. With that, she continued earnestly, I see this as an opportunity. There's no need for you to leave. Let's expose his deeds together. Before I knew it, I was crying. Why did I have to go through all this alone? Day after day, unable to think of anything else, I had almost lost sight of my own reason for being. Mariah spoke to me gently, as if to encourage me. Everyone at the company is furious. They can't fathom why someone as valuable as Yale would be forced to leave. They even protested at the president's office. But ultimately, it might have been the complaints from our clients that prompted action. I had no idea that happened. A warm feeling flowed through my heart. If you decide to come back, I'll do whatever I can to support you. If the president comes to protest, I'll testify as much as needed. Thank you. I thanked her sincerely. Maybe you should hear it from her as well. Please. At my cue, the door opened. The sound of slippers shuffling. Hello, Mariah. Seeing her, Hayden's face seemed to cloud over. I've been persistently pursued by your son for a long time. Not just me, but many employees have been greatly troubled and put through a lot because of his actions. Is that so? Hayden. The president, a mix of surprise and anger, confronted his son. Hayden, flustered, could only offer excuses. No, I wouldn't do something like pursuing her. I was just trying to communicate as part of the team. That is clearly crossing a line. Mariah, with a pained expression, recounted how during work and even after leaving the office, Hayden had schemed to be alone with her and followed her like a stalker. Mr. Williams' face was filled with anger. With a voice full of indignation, Mariah delivered what seemed like the final blow. If this behavior from your son continues unchecked, I will resign from the company. Mariah. Her face, when I glanced at her, was resolute, as if she had made up her mind. Yet, Hayden, finding something amusing about the situation, laughed it off. No, Mariah, what are you talking about? There's no need for you to leave. You're overreacting. In this situation, how can you still joke around, Hayden? Mr. Williams exploded in rage. Dad. Hayden seemed taken aback by his father's anger, as if he had never been reprimanded before. The president knelt down, facing us. I'm truly sorry for the inconvenience caused to both of you. I know an apology isn't enough. Then, looking me straight in the eye, Yale, I apologize for the immense distress my son has caused you with his actions. With that, he looked down apologetically, while raising his head to continue. I will certainly discipline my son. He will no longer work with you too. So, I beg you, please come back to our company. I am fully aware that I am asking too much. Saying so, he apologized again. Silence lingered for a long time. Hayden had a sullen look on his face, and Mariah, standing next to me, tensed up in a way that was palpable. Unable to bear the silence any longer, I found myself speaking up. Please, lift your head, Mr. Williams. I've truly let the employees down. As both a president and a parent, I've failed. His eyes, possibly teary, were red. My wife and I longed for children for many years, so we were overjoyed when Hayden was born. We cherished and pampered him, but perhaps that was a mistake. Saying so, he glanced briefly at Hayden's profile. It seems we spoiled our son too much. Our actions nearly cost us one of our company's valuable employees. No, perhaps this has been a problem for a long time. Mr. Williams. Seeing the usually kind and cheerful president filled with such turmoil, even about his own son's actions, made me feel deeply uncomfortable. Hayden, it seemed, had finally begun to reflect, remaining silent the whole time. As the evening darkened, Mariah and I ended up celebrating at a nearby pub. Good job today. It was tough, wasn't it? Clashing our beer mugs together, we praised each other. The discussion ended without Hayden saying a word to the president, who repeatedly apologized after his son's actions became clear. This situation seemed to anger the president even more, and it would be no exaggeration to say that the two of them were on the verge of a chaotic scene on their way home. After a stormy period had passed, perhaps due to the tension easing, my stomach audibly rumbled. Taking her up on her suggestion to go out for dinner, we found ourselves entering the first pub we saw. I'm really happy, truly, that Yale is coming back. Blushing slightly, Mariah continued excitedly, saying that makes me kind of embarrassed. In this dreamlike situation, I found myself oddly calm. I wouldn't just visit the home of a single man without a good reason. Well, that's true. Her words brought back the tension. Yet, this time, her call to action had rallied colleagues and superiors alike to our cause. I was deeply grateful to everyone. I have to work hard to repay them for my performance from now on. As I was thinking this, she gave me a serious look. What? Is something wrong? There's something I haven't told you yet. Something you haven't told me. She then looked down, placing a hand over her heart to steady herself. Do you remember when I said I was dating you to get that guy off my back? Yes, I remember. Of course, it was something I couldn't forget even if I wanted to. The truth is, I mentioned your name. She smiled shyly. I've always liked you, Yale. What? It felt as though time had stopped, so long that I couldn't move. But, have we ever talked before? Given that we were in different departments, we had barely exchanged greetings. Do you not remember? I stared at the ceiling, trying desperately to remember. Sorry. No, it's something from a long time ago. With that, Mariah began to recount a certain incident from the past, lost in her memories. It was shortly after she had joined the company. After the tension-filled orientation had ended, she was hurrying to the nearest station to catch a train. There was a TV show she didn't want to miss, and perhaps unable to contain her excitement, she started to jog. Suddenly, an unknown man blocked her path. Do you need something? You've got a cute face. How about hanging out with me for a bit? Then, out of nowhere, he grabbed her arm. I still remember how scared I was of his muscular build and the sinister smile on his face. Please, let me go. Passersby seemed unwilling to get involved, turning a blind eye. What should I do, someone? Then, it happened in the next moment. Hey, she clearly doesn't like it. I saw an unfamiliar young man standing between me and the man, intervening. What the? Who are you? She's clearly uncomfortable. What? Get out of my way. Taking advantage of the moment the man released my arm, we both fled from the spot. Hey, wait. But it seemed there happened to be a police officer nearby, causing the man to give up the chase. Are you okay? Yes, I'm fine. Finally reaching the nearest station, we caught our breath. Thank you so much. No problem, but that must have been scary. Saying so, he smiled shyly, a face I still remember. Oh no, I need to get home quickly. He glanced at his wristwatch, looking worried. Seeing how the suit and briefcase didn't quite suit him, he might be a new employee just like me. Excuse me. Before I could ask his name, he quickly said, Oh, sorry. I have plans with a friend now. Please be careful on your way home. If anything happens. Before he finished speaking, he had already entered the ticket gate. He's such a nice person. While thinking this, I glanced at the ground and noticed something that looked like a flashy piece of fabric. Huh? This looks familiar. Picking it up, I slowly unfolded it. Oh, this is. It was the handkerchief given to us by Mr. Williams himself at today's orientation ceremony. With the mustard color that the president loves as a background, the company's name was printed boldly on it. Honestly, it's hard to say it was in good taste, but I suppose every company does something similar. I remembered swallowing my burgeoning question. The next day, I was struggling with the tasks assigned in my new department. Finally taking a break, I headed to the break room, where I saw the young man who had helped me yesterday. but he seemed to be deeply engaged in conversation with someone who appeared to be a colleague, not noticing me. I guess it's impossible to approach him now. Another time, struggling with unfamiliar tasks, my boss came over and ordered me to organize the storage room. Being a newcomer, I guess I have to be able to do anything to be considered fully competent. Thinking so, I was working alone, when suddenly the door opened. Is that him? The one who entered was the man who had helped me that day, apparently carrying a cardboard box filled with documents. Oh, perfect timing. It was just as I was about to speak up. Hey, Yale, can you handle this too? Yes. Understood. After placing the cardboard box down, he quickly ran off to the source of the voice. So, his name is Yale. I tried to remember while listening to her story. I vaguely remembered helping a woman who was in trouble, but I was too frantic at the time to remember clearly. Yet, Mariah's story continued. Sometimes we'd pass by each other, and every time, my heart would race. I often saw him helping people in trouble. I thought to myself, this man is truly kind. Oh, that's right, she muttered, and suddenly stood up. Thank you for helping me that time. She thanked me with the brightest smile I had ever seen. Hayden's deeds became widely known throughout the company, and by the president's orders, he was dismissed in a manner akin to disciplinary action. Now, he's hopping between part-time jobs, living alone in a shabby apartment, I heard. I once bumped into Hayden working at a fast food restaurant I randomly entered. He avoided eye contact when he realized it was me, but he was loudly attending to customers. I hope he can change for the better from here on. On the other hand, the company acknowledged that all the scandals were due to Hayden's irresponsibility, and I was able to return to work. Not just my department, but people from other departments too welcomed me back, and I was so moved I almost cried. But what made me happiest was Yale, Mariah. Accepting a confession from the person I had admired, I was overjoyed to officially become a couple. Today, under the clear blue sky, I was excited for a date with Mariah. Sorry to keep you waiting. Did you wait long? No. Then let's go. With that, I reached out my hand, and we firmly held each other's slim, white hands. When people work hard, they can sometimes be pulled down by the malice of others. I've personally felt how that enthusiasm can be exploited by others, and sometimes, everything you've built can collapse. But I've also learned that this effort can save you. When in trouble, we're there for each other. I can now say with confidence that this wasn't wrong. As a member of a company loved by our hometown, I want to continue doing work I can be proud of with my amazing colleagues.